Afternoon, everybody. Council meeting on 6th November to begin with a prayer. God of our fathers, in whom we trust, by whose guidance and grace this nation was born.
E toa atua ka hurua, nā toa pātoa kanoa, nā toa aroha e whanu mai e aroha.
Bless these councillors of Upper Hutt and give all things needed for the faithful discharge of their responsibilities.
Whakapainga mai mātou, ko nā mai whakatiki, ko mai ki mātou, mā mere mai, kia atia ai tau mātou mahi, nā mahi, hei ha uki ka e te hapuri.
Give to each good health and good judgment for the decisions to be made, wisdom beyond our own, and a clear understanding so that we may promote thy glory and the welfare of all in this city.
Ko mai ki tēnei mā mātou, te ronga mai mita ākau mā pai hoki. Kia whakatau ki te tanga nā mata tūtaki e koreti mātuatanga. Kia atu korea nai te ranga o te pōtua o tō e whakatiki.
Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Korea o Christia tau mātu rike. Amen.
Thank you, Steve. Before we begin, just from the last 6 weeks, 26th of September, we celebrated the 21st birthday of Whirinaki. We also had on the 5th of October the Poseidon and exercise in civil defence. It was based at Trenton Military Camp. We also on the 15th of October had another citizenship ceremony where we had 67 new people from Upper Hutt from 20 different countries. And on the 20th of October, we had Silverstream Primary School celebrating 100 years. And on the 24th of October, we hosted a delegation from Malaysia who were here with Otago University, who were studying local government. And Otago University asked us to host them. We had them here for the morning. Just over the Labour weekend, we had the New Zealand Dog Agility Champs at Trenton Memorial Park. And then last week, we had the first of the college prize givings up at college on the 29th and here at Taonga on the 31st. And on Saturday, we had the retirement function for Debbie Whitley, who's 30 years principal running the teen parent unit. So she dedicated really her life to that cause, and she's retiring. And just last night, one of our former employees here, Kahu Rollison, Hanui event at the National Library where he spoke, and I attended how his engagement with having to teach young people about writing. And just this afternoon, we had the Kaitoki Pipe Bridge opening of Kaitoki Regional Park. And Heather was up there with her dog in the rain. Okay, we have apologies. I have apologies from Councillor Wheeler and Councillor Carey, and for lateness, Councillor Carson. Happy to move. Do we have a second? Seconded by Deputy Mayor Swale. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Contrary, no. Before we go to public, we do have a late item for consideration. That's the regional policy statement for the Wellington region, where we agreed that we would appeal, and that item is a late. So I'm happy to move that we accept that late item. Councillor Griffiths. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, no. It's been carried. We have declaration of interest. If there's any changes to the declaration of interest, please let governance know or myself. And we now move to item 3, which is the public forum, where we have 6 members of the public that wish to speak. And we begin with Ray Marriott. Ray, welcome. You can come up and sit there. Ray? Yep. You can either sit on that seat there or stand, whatever you like. Well, you can if you want to. Yeah. Over to you, Ray.
Want me to start?
Yep, over to you.
Sorry, I'm only having fun. Okay, my name's Ray Merritt. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
I'm better than me. I said, put down rates, what I wanted to speak to you about. That was a wildfire. What worries me, I don't read the local rate to the Parliament, but I have a library here. So more than most people, I read it from back to front. No, I'll be about, where I live in McLeod Street, the house I live in, there's 2 adults and 1 cat. The people next door to me, there's 6 adults and a dog. Other one on the side there, there's eight people. All those people go to work. Drive out in vans and cars in the morning. Yeah, across the road, there's a bloke that even had to bring in those cabins with wheels. Take those, I'd take the overflow. We all pay roughly about the same rates. I'm not saying whether I consider them too much or too little. That is not the issue of what I'm speaking. All those people are younger than me and they would use the facilities provided by this organisation far more than I would. We're targeting the wrong person. I pay the rates on the house, or we, my wife and I, they pay the same one and have 20 times, 30 times the use of it. The main point of my little group here, no one's got to ring the bell yet, are they? We should do something. England tried to bring it in, they call it a poll tax. We shouldn't do it, we can call it a city tax. We all pay rate tax on our money and it goes in their revenue and they keep it. We could pay 0.005% of your income and then our revenue department collect it, put it there, twice a year or 3 times a year, whatever that is pretty easy to change things. Been changed so many times. It gets paid to the city council of Upper Hutt who then distribute it. You would end up with far more money than you've got now to build things fully full. The thing is that we're targeting one small group of people. And as time goes on, we're going to get older and last longer because we're meant to be a little bit more healthy than our predecessors. And you're going to end up with a whole bunch of people selling their houses and living in flats and things because of the rating system. I'm not here to claim what you charge me for the exorbitant thing of my only tin shed. It is that we need to do something. And I was hoping that I could impress upon some of you people somewhere that when you're having a closed meeting, you discuss it and come up with say it was a good idea or a dumb idea or whatever. You then, when you have your meetings with the Whare and Lower Hutt and Wellington, and she'd be lovely to have some other idea thrown on the thing, do away with dogs' miles. And Whare one, you put it up as a paper to say we should develop something. And when I spoke to Mr. Brown about it, he wasn't that thing. By the way, not Mr. Brown, you know it's another Mr. Brown, who said that too. Yeah, that we need to start looking at a new type of rating system in all of New Zealand, not just that, we can't change it. Am I impressing you or not, Mr. Mayor?
Absolutely.
Couldn't
agree more.
On your face, but
Couldn't agree more.
I think that we could start from Upper Hutt, and it might go like, rate increase all over. This needs to be looked at. We have landlords who, as soon as the rate demand comes in, they flick it on to the tenant. Well, they can't do that now with this new system, the Marriott system. Because it was already built in that he's paid it. So when the landlord puts the rate up, his rent up because of the rate, he always adds a couple more dollars on to round it off a bit. So people are losing out all round. My wife just said to me, when we left, all this bloody $330 a month and all these sorts of things come on. It's a constant every day. You have to, and not everybody is 100,000 plus a year. I can assure you that they don't. And I've worked bloody hard with this country, and the only way I would have got it was to rob a bank. It can't be all thrown out with a dishwater. It's worthy, I think, you people are, of a discussion in your inner house to say we can do something, and then when you go to the Whare and the Lower Hutt ones and that, you say, listen, we've got a little thing here, what to talk about. And then maybe the gentleman in the beehive might take notice. You can't just, every time I buy the paper, it shows you that it's gone up somewhere. People are writing letters to the editors about, when I bought this house, such and such, the rate for this. Now they've gone up 20%, 20%, 20%. A lot of wages don't go up 20% unless you're, sort of somewhere makes it all happen. It doesn't happen, and we can't keep doing it to the ordinary Joe citizens of the country. They are important. It is really important. And when you get to an old age like I am, the ancient thing there, the only thing the city council really do take great interest in the cemeteries and crematoriums, because it's getting near the end of it. I have lots of children and more so, and they use the facilities. And my sons, when they're doing their building apprenticeship, people wouldn't have minded paying, didn't make any difference in an extra, $2 a paid week out of it. But it shares the loading around the fair thing that people, honestly, there's never any question that I'd ask you about it? No.
Well, we agree. I mean, there was a paper done 2 years ago, which was finalised last year on future, if you like, funding for local government, but the present government really haven't taken it up. But you're right. I mean, it can't continue the way that. Yeah.
I think most of you, if you don't think it's going to continue like that, you're sort of missing the boat out there. You can't keep putting rates up and up and up and up and up. I don't care whether you're building a septic tank system in Carnison, which they are, and struggling with it, or a swimming pool there, or bloody whatever. You can't just keep going like this. And we've got to have a more fairer system of what people pay for it. Not everybody gets the same as what they live in Gulf Road or things, or up in Timberley, up on the top stuff there. And when I started taking notice of things in Nio that I came from, Jack was doing about as good as his master. With a bit of overtime, he got the same amount of money as the headmaster at the school. And now it's all changed. And we're sort of getting into a situation of dog eat dog, and it shouldn't be in the New Zealand that I knew in 80 odd years.
Okay, has anyone got any other questions for Mr. Marriott? Yep.
Thank you for
Deputy
coming
Mayor
along. Thank you for coming along.
Yeah.
We did make a commitment through the long-term plan that we would actually do a rates review. So it's quite timely that you've actually brought this conversation up. We have had a workshop, but we are still planning to work through what that might look like. Yeah. So we're on the journey.
Right?
We're on the journey.
You're on the deal, okay?
Okay, no other questions? Thank you. Thank you, Ray.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's it.
Yeah.
The next
Well, that's not the cheap one.
next speaker is Paul Fabian.
Good cheer.
Thanks.
What do you think of this?
Paul,
I've given my speech and all my thing to.
Yes,
Yeah.
I have it. I will
There are
send
copies, but I think I've got them. So there's a couple of references in the probably already seen. Couple of things. Just firstly, I might yell because sometimes when you're watching online, if you face this way, you can't hear. So if I am yelling, I'm not yelling, and I do come in peace. So thank you all for allowing me to talk with you. I am encouraged to see in the Local Water Done Well report on page 83, consideration of ratepayers' affordability, that ongoing increases to rates will be unacceptable and unaffordable. Even though there are a few, I want to raise awareness of a couple of areas in the report which I believe are of concern. Community understanding. Page 89, item 86, talks about consultation with regards to LTP adjustment. I've put a piece in there that you probably don't have. I believe that any option that is not the status quo has an impact on the LTP. On page 9 of the blue consultation book that we received this year, it states that the council has forecast and budgeted based on the status quo and continuing to own its own water assets. So I believe any change to the status quo will require adjustment to the long-term plan, and thus there is a requirement to consult with the public.
Yep.
It is of concern over the consultation of the community, especially where it states on page 80 about a streamlined consultation and decision-making process. What is this? How will this happen? I couldn't find anything. Our question is, how is this good community understanding that the Act talks about qualifying? It seems very subjective. I'll just depart slightly and I'll share a comment that a community member shared with us. So I quote, "We cannot allow council to make decisions behind closed doors. They did it before with workshops to discuss cuts to keep the rates down. I think it was Simi and Brown who told council that they were not to use workshops that exclude ratepayers. The 500% borrowing cap is of a concern. This council is in enough debt already now, which ratepayers are being hit with. I read that Wellington City Council is taking money from ratepayers' bank accounts or going to banks to recover rates. There are more people in Wellington now struggling to pay rates and getting put on the payment plans. The council once suggested to me that I could have a payment plan. They are turning us into beggars with debt passed on to us by the council, debt we didn't create. That's what gets to me. I'm going to have to do everything I can to keep a house I don't really want. End quote. In principle, there is a lot of use of the term in principle. From the hoopla that came around from the letter which Rain and Jeff sent to the ministers regarding the Silver Stream development, it seems that this is the new, we agree that we can change if we want. It seems like it doesn't have defined boundaries or a definition that is clear to the public what in principle means. And it's allowing decisions to be made that are not fully considered as one entity. Debt levels. Page 90 states as part of the new local water dumbbell that there would be access to higher levels of debt, 500% of revenue, up 220% on the current levels. From further research, we understand this 500% is per council and it needs to be guaranteed the funding is serviceable. Still, wow, 500% cap of debt. This is concerning, as we all know with the current S&P downgrade, that this debt will potentially cost the city more in debt repayments. With the potential of $395 million in debt availability in 2035, based on the council's numbers, it's a huge concern. Options. In the report, there seem to be 3 options put forward from what we can see. Today, there is an in-principle decision to be made to exclude option 1, which is the council going it alone. This leaves multi-council option and status quo of Wellington Water. As stated in the report, option 3 is not really viable, as Wellington Water structure is not aligned to be with legislative requirements. So from this, we assume that it only leaves one option, being the multi-council implementation. Where are the 2 viable options, which we would look to provide to the community and supply to the government? I ask, how can council make an in-principle decision to exclude an option 1, when from what we can see, there is minimal justifications at this point to support that decision or evidence of exploration of other options. Summing up, regarding local water done well, options don't seem to be formed fully or fully transparent to us in the community with respect to financial or service impacts to us all. I do not fully understand local water done well, how it will be delivered, nor the benefits or impacts that we would get. I encourage this council to look at how it conducts this process, cut the in-principle decisions, and include the community in the options definition and assessment. At a minimum, I would ask you all to support informing and consulting with your community to ensure council is working with their best interests to have the support and the direction for this monumental decision. One last thing, I had a last minute message from someone in the community. There was an email from you, Wayne, thank you, stating that yes, there will be consultation with the public by the council on local water done well. I personally am still a little unclear on how that might occur. And it does it change the in-principle decisions asked to be made by the council today, knowing that in principle has not been clearly defined and we appear to only have one option.
I've got a question for you, Paul. Have you written to the local government minister saying that you disagree with the legislation? Because that's what we're having to work under.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah.
So I'm starting with you guys. You guys have put out a report to look at it this meeting with decisions. So starting here, If I get to understand more about it, then I can formulate something and write something to the local government. Definitely. So to answer your question, no, but I can.
Yeah, no, just because the questions that you raise are areas that we're having to work under. So, yeah, I mean,
But working under and challenging are two different things.
no one's
challenged those.
No one's questioning that, but I'm saying that the legislation that's been passed is formulating what we have to do. Clearly, across, not just Upper Hutt, it's across the country.
I understand.
Yeah, across the country.
Councillor
Councillor,
Thank you, Paul. There's a lot that you covered and I'd love to respond to it.
Yep.
There's so much there. Do you think it would be beneficial if we had some community kind of briefings / drop-in sessions for people to come and get a better understanding of how we've got where we.
I think it would be beneficial to have multiple meetings.
Yeah, multiple meetings, yeah.
Yes. Because not everybody can be online, not everybody can make it in person, not everybody, reads the local rag, which is not so local anymore. But there are multiple mediums out there where that could be covered across. Yes.
It's the information would be what's in this report, but probably just made more digestible and.
Absolutely, and digestible is a good thing. Being able to answer questions that the community have to get buy-in and that support is essential.
Thank you.
any other questions? Deputy Miss Wales?
Well, thank you for coming along and very much like you, I was confused with regards to the alternative requirements with consultation. And it took me a wee while to find out where I could find that. So just some information I'll share with you. If you go and look under the Local Government Water Services Preliminary Arrangement Bill, that's where I found everything that I needed to know about that. Whether I agree with it or not, it's another thing, but that might be helpful for you to actually go and have a look. But it wasn't obvious where you would find that information, because I even asked His Worship, what did it mean? Where would I find it? Yeah, I can give you the pages. If you go there, it's on page, starts on page 33. You're welcome.
Any other questions, Councillor Carson?
Yeah, thanks for coming along. You may not be aware, and this is a question, that the 500% of revenue applies to the organisation that is set up to do local water done well. So if it's the case of, in the case of option one, which would be City Council, yes, that's 500%. And that's clearly the reason why option one isn't valid. Financially valid, because there's no way we can assume 500,000, 500% revenue and expect ratepayers to pay. So therefore it applies to, for example, a regional grouping CCO, and it applies to that organisation, a Wellington council controlled organisation. That's the organisation that can go up to 500% of revenue. Okay. So it's not the individual council that's part of the CCO grouping, that's the actual CCO itself. Okay, so that's I think may allay some of that concern that you have. And also finally, when you get into the text of it, the latest development, and if you go to the DIA website, it has weekly announcements about various things. And the latest one that was back in October was that within the CCO, each of the councils is a shareholder, and in effect, what will be developed is their own profit and loss account within the CCO group. So that enables the particular shareholder council to establish its revenue and expenditure and hence charging regime. And this overcomes the criticism previously that one council would subsidise another council. So that's another very important thing to understand within the legislation.
Any other questions?
So was there a question?
I appreciate the information. I just think the first part was how you're aware.
Thank you. Yeah, Kate Fabian?
I had a few things written down. Helen has cleared some of those, and so has Carson. As some of this has only just come to light, I'd have to bring to the table that half this is kind of, not, I wouldn't say irrelevant, but is, more has been explained, but with only like 15 minutes before you're potentially going to go towards, a potential decision, I cannot. I mean, I've only just learned a whole lot of stuff, so how can we guarantee that enough of the community actually are aware, understand, and are fully informed on what is going on today, which is part of the reason why this cannot go ahead today with the Wellington done well. So I apologise if any of this has already been said, but I'm going to do it anyway, because up until 2 minutes ago, I pretty much was still in the dark, and I'm still in the dark due to the fact that I have to go away and research and look up and rewatch this YouTube clip to understand fully something that you may be agreeing to in principle this afternoon. And I don't think that that's acceptable. Okay, so firstly, thank you for allowing me to speak. And secondly, a really big shout out to all the councillors who did actually reply to the emails, and a little disappointing to those that potentially did not reply. I understand we've got 21 working days, but it would be nice for some to have replied. So my main statement was that I feel very strongly that local water well cannot continue today in principle until this meeting and streamlined consultation and decision process is defined and understood. And I think that's the big word here, understood. Clarified and the community understands and certified before the in-principle step is taken today. And I think that's pretty much it in a nutshell. And if you're explaining it to us, and Helen has kindly explained part of it now, then I would beg that any of you could go out on the community out on the street now and actually get the answers to this. And therefore, I think we should hold what we're doing in principle. Okay. Simply, how can there not be confusion over local water done well until this is defined? Because I believe the council here will have an issue with pointing out the exact definition and boundaries to these points in documentation and where they are written and defined. I'm not sure whether you've shared that information with your colleagues or not, Helen, but you know, up until 10 minutes ago, I don't believe it was probably going on. Ensuring the community understands part of the law as process and accepting, and I believe this is not. I'm sure that you're all very much aware that the community is listening, they are watching, and they may not be sitting in the seats behind, and they may not get emails, but they are watching and they are emailing us on a regular basis. So I would encourage that you take what is being said today quite seriously before you take the next step. That is not meant as a threat, that is meant as a helpful suggestion. In regards to page 89 and 82, it talks about council being able to assess other options, which Paul has talked about, so I don't think I really need to go through too many of those, and you'll see them in the notes. Item 86 talks about the consultation in regards to changes needed to the long-term plan. I believe that if you're going from going it alone to now potentially joining forces, that is a major change in part of the law that needs to be put back out to public to be discussed. As it says, streamline consultation and decision-making process for established any council-controlled organisation to deliver water services and joint local government arrangements, both which are currently provided for in the Local Government Act 2002. And in the LTP, you've actually got a little blue bit that's on page, I think it's page 9. And it basically says that you'll be going it, yeah. Anyway, I'm a little bit kerfuffled because we've obviously had a few changes, but that's okay. In principle, again, it's such a wishy-washy, which definition are you using? What does it actually mean? We had councillors here that were confused over the with the schmoozles. I don't have a lot to do with what happened up there in Silverstream, but I do know that there was a lot of confusion and it needs to be defined. As the Mayor was saying, you know, can we put in stuff regarding this law legislation? Yes, we have sent stuff through to Sydney and Brown saying that we think that the Local Government Act 2002 needs to be revised, and we've also put in a few others that need to be revised. We haven't specifically stated what we believe needs to be looked at. And that is what Paul was basically trying to say before us, that he is not specifically, because until you guys give some direction, we can't move with that and we can't back you, which is what we as a community want to do so that we can grow together rather than log-heading. He's talked about debt levels, he's talked about the options only having really one left. And yeah, basically just please be sure that the community are watching, they are listening, and they want to be part of things, but they do not want to be side fight either. So you're here to represent them, please let them in.
Just if it's your help, the decision today is not about making any decision on a proposed plan or anything like that. The decision today is simply, as the government's asked us to do, is to continue to work regionally to develop a plan, and then that will come back, will be more specific, and then that will come back through for the community.
You're going to agree from what the agenda says in principle, and in
We're only agreeing, can I just say, we're only agreeing to working with the regional councils in the region. At the moment, there's the Wairarapa, Horowhenua and the Wellington region working together to develop a plan that will come back to communities, and then council makes it. We're making no decision at all today on.
So there will be no in principle stated.
All we're doing is making a decision to continue to work regionally as we've been requested.
No, not correct.
That's what we're doing.
Well, then you need to cease, because the community has a completely different vision of what is written in the agenda and what is written.
Well, that's
And
okay,
therefore,
I'm not going to argue. I'm just saying that's what we're making a decision on.
therefore, there is a legal implication here, and I believe it needs to be looked into further.
Yeah, there's no legal implication. We've been through that, but we just that's.
I believe there is, and I believe that it needs to be halted until we've just had information given to us from Helen. We've had information given to us by Carson. There is not enough out there, and you are literally going down one track when there are supposedly two options supposed to be on the table. And that is according to your agenda and to your paperwork. And I'm no scholar, and I admit that, but even I can see past what's going on.
Okay, any other questions? Councillor Bentley?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. If you could just before me to the vote, like to Councillor Carson, maybe try and elaborate. The reason the wording in principle was used is because, one, this will all be subject to consultation as is required under the Local Government Act. But we first have to work out what our options are. And so for the regional model, we have to work out what that model looks like. Who is in the team, what councils, how will it be delivered, how will it be structured. So we have to work as a region to work out what that model is, and then we can present it to the community. But we have to agree in principle to work together. That's how in principle is being used.
So what is the definition that the council is using for in principle? What is the actual definition? What can you please provide me a written, right, or point me exactly? No, I don't want, I'm looking in this slide, I want it written down in your paper that what definition.
Okay, any other questions?
That is a cop out.
No, we.
Okay.
I
All right.
asked politely.
Yeah.
What a
No more. Thank you.
definition of in principle, and I'm taking it that you're refusing.
So I'm not repeating that. I can answer my opinion, but I can't answer. I can vote.
Okay, the next
As a councillor.
next one is Heather Blissett.
There should be written
Heather.
that you follow. That you follow.
You don't want the answer.
Heather.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I give you my opinion? What?
Right. No, that's it.
Sorry, can I?
No, Heather.
It's because we don't have the authority to do it, so we are doing it in principle.
So what is?
Okay, we're not here to argue.
Okay.
Okay.
Because you have no idea.
Sorry, thank you.
I'm sorry. It is a legal term.
Yeah.
That it works in principle. It basically allows the council the option of moving forward. It doesn't commit to anything. It allows opportunity rather than closing off, I suppose, the
Thank you, Kate.
Okay,
That's point.
and
Could
we-
you please, allow us to know where this is actually written down?
we will now extend the public excluded, the public time, please. Happy to move, seconded by councillor Newell. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Aye. No, it's been carried. Now we move to Heather Blissett.
Just ironic that today, it's water services and I ended up trying to clear my head up at Kai talking and and I ended up avoiding a school group that was up there, so I went the other way and ended up bumping into the opening of the bridge. So it was quite nice to be the community representative here with the dog. And just to answer a question that you had, Wayne, it was Clyde Kenny School from Mount Vic. So
There's plenty of.
and they thought the bridge was closed, otherwise they would have joined us. So I've tabled my document. A lot of what I've got to say has been discussed here, so I'm just going to keep it brief because you've got a big paper to get through. So I'm just going to skim through it. Basically on page 78 under recommendations, we just wanted some more clarity around what that means, so I'm just tabling that as a question. Number 7, and I highlighted that it says any requirement to amend the long-term plan 2024, etc., to give effect to the delivery model may not require further consultation. So I'm just tabling that because I think the consultation is mentioned. It's really important. I also note that Te Mana o Te Wai is replaced by Taumata Arawai wastewater standards. I haven't read that, so I don't know if where the environmental or Te Tau fit within that framework. So I just wanted that tabled as well. Page 82, number 20, we need a biodiversity strategy urgently. That comes from Waiwahine, so I'm speaking to that. Te Tau appears to be missing from the considerations of the third bill. Page 82, number 25, reducing the regulatory burden for drinking water suppliers, particularly for small low-risk suppliers. It doesn't clarify who they are. It was suggested it's probably rural users, but it doesn't. I just wanted some more clarity around that. Page 82, the case for change, number 26. Change the word growth to post-growth. Now, that comes from someone before me, but I'm just taking that through. I think it's important we start changing our languaging. Include affordable for Te Tau as well as community. Because I've noticed when I was reading the document, the environment seems to be missing in our consideration. So we talk about sustainable affordability, we talk about sustainable finances, etc., etc. Page 83, number 27, include the enabling growth in housing supply will be environmentally exhausting and increasingly financially challenging insofar as it will rely on water and other servicing infrastructure. Therefore, we propose relieving the existing burden on the current infrastructure through redesign because what currently exists is not viable for either environment or community. So I've actually highlighted in green, I've included that in the paragraph because we seem to be missing the cause and effect on our environment. Page 87, number 62, will require an estimated 15 to 17 billion over the next 25 years. Does this include the additional growth helping fund this? And I did delete that, but I just think when we start talking things like that, it doesn't shock us. I just think that we should be sitting there thinking, wow, that's not $1 and $2 coins. Page 88, number 75, we should be redesigning our stormwater and harvesting it for use for cleaning vehicles, flushing toilets and watering gardens. These should not be using potable water. Permeable surface ensure a safe recycling of a natural water system. Taonga is the expert at this and does so efficiently and very affordably. I just want to say this because it sounds airy-fairy, but at the end of the day, we are displacing. So the environment has a way of just naturally interconnecting with itself. We're displacing huge volumes of water, and we are water. So, you know, the earth can find a way to balance itself. If you've got a bottom and you tip it, the water will always find its equilibrium. And if you look at it on a big, huge scale, the water will do that. And we seem to think that if you're taking huge volumes of water 2 seconds every day, it's not going to do the effect. It does. Page 9, I know I'm running out of time. Page 9 to number 10, can we include affordability for our natural environment? It should be first and foremost in our planning, and I did notice when I said it before, it seems to be missing. It is time we came up with a biodiversity strategy. So, and then the rest of my document is tabled, and it is referring to the in-principle wording. I looked up the Collins Dictionary. I'm not going to go revisiting it, but what I did is I went through the agenda and I pulled out every single paragraph that has in principle just to highlight one, how often it shows up and where it's showing up. So I looked up the Collins Dictionary and Oxford and say because we've been there. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Heather. Any questions for Heather? Councillor Ultra?
Thank you. Just on post growth, can you give us a definition of post
Okay, so because I have an issue with the word climate change. There's a whole lot of words that I think cause triggers and barriers to communication. There's a catchphrase called degrowth. It's about scaling back. So maybe we've reached the maximum of our build and the maximum of our infrastructure and the maximum of our water take. So there's a movement called degrowth. But actually, after talking to those guys that we made, sorry, Robbers, it was suggested that the word post-growth, and I actually quite like that because it sounds a lot more positive. Degrowth sounds negative, but post-growth actually says where to from here. Because, and I know I said it in my last submission, if we did business as usual, if our ancestors did business as usual, we'd still be living in caves. So at some point, I mean, you think about it, we used to be 8 in a 3-bedroom home, now we're like 2 in a 5-bedroom. Maybe we just need to stop and just assess what we've got. And so post-growth, we've grown, now let's stop and pause and redesign.
Okay, any other questions? Thanks, Heather. Thank you. We now move to Anne Wagstaff. Welcome.
Okay, I'm just going to read from mine. Kia ora, Mayor and Councillors. New Zealand has a problem with pollution from waste of every kind. But today I want to focus on litter, which leads to polluted waterways with microplastics in our fresh water and our seawater. As a country, there is a lot central government could do and should be doing. But my focus is on local action within local communities. As a river city, it is vitally important that we do our bit. Starting with education, I am confident that if people understand the scale of the problem and understood the part they can play, attitudes and behaviours towards littering will change. Simple things like not putting food, contaminated cans and pizza boxes into the recycling would make a big difference. Doing the right thing has to be convenient. We need more bins in the community that enable people to separate their types of waste so that glass, plastics, Tetra Paks and cardboard can be diverted from landfill. At the moment, Maidstone Max is the only park that has separating bins. Doing the right thing has to be affordable. With the cost of living crisis getting worse every week, there needs to be solutions available to prevent fly tipping. For example, having annual hard rubbish removal works in other cities. Both Porirua and Wellington landfills have recycling centres outside of the refuse centre, so that people can drop off fridges, TVs and other goods to be reused and recycled at low or no cost. At the moment, cars are weighed on the way into Silverstream landfill and on the way out. People pay to drop off items to Earthlink, within the chargeable area. There are also infrastructure solutions that Upper Hutt City Council could explore and include in the future long-term plan. For example, placing filters on the roadside drains to capture the litter before it enters the waterway. The council could also be taking an active role in clarifying the roles, for example, between Kiwi Rail that looks after the rail corridor and council who look after the parks. But who clears the litter in station car parks like Wallaceville, where I picked 35 kilograms of litter a couple of weeks ago? There is also a lack of service provision. Council contracts need to include the diversion of recyclables from landfill and ensure that waste types are separated. Finally, there are things we can do as a community with support and leadership from the council and the involvement of local businesses and community groups. My vision is for us all to work together to plan a resource recovery centre that ensures that waste is recycled and reused. It won't happen overnight, but if we start working on the concept and bringing stakeholders together, we can make it happen step by step. Doing nothing will cost the earth, literally. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. Any questions for Anne? Are you aware that, Anne, that we don't have any control over the Silver Stream landfill?
Yeah, I know that
Yeah.
completely, yeah.
Yeah, and there is some talk about some changes to the recycling. It's early stages, but there is some. Yeah.
I'd love to be involved in that.
Yeah.
If I could.
Councillor Neil.
And what a refreshing but devastating presentation in terms of its implications. And one thing I'm sort of trying to understand from what you're saying, if you could just elaborate a bit. What is the priority, or what should the priority be? Is it around recycling, or is it about reducing waste?
I think this is multifaceted. You know, I'm personally looking forward to the plastics meeting that's happening in Busan later this month, where corporations are hopefully going to be held to account to reduce what they're putting out there. Coca-Cola, I know, is involved, and I'm involved through the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, if you want to know more about that. National government, sorry, not national government, but the government of the country are bringing in curbside recycling. My concern with that is if education does not go out at the same time as that, we're still going to end up with truckloads going to landfill because of contamination.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's what I see. I see we've got to think about how we educate to not make people feel like it's a job.
Mm.
You need to make it as easy as possible for people to do the right thing.
And one thing I think we should, if you're interested in that question, maybe we would let you know the dates that the Hutt Valley Services Committee meets.
That would be great.
And then you can come along and see how difficult it is for us to deal with the commercialisation aspect of the landfill.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank
Deputy
you.
Mayor Swales.
I'd just like to share some information with you, Anne. I am the on the Wellington Regional Organisation.
Yeah, I'm aware of
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
So we've got 19 projects regionally that we've committed to and signed up, which is a renewal every 6 years.
Yeah.
And one of those 19, we've got a timeline. Education is definitely part of it. Flight, I think, is also part of it. We've also consulted on a local waste minimisation where both Councillor Holderness and myself were out there with the public communicating whether we adopted the local plan. So happy to send you the link through our officers to give you that. So that's in place for 6 years.
Yeah.
And it won't get changed until we're ready to do that. We're only in year 1 of it. The next meeting of the regional waste minimisation, and people are able to go to it, is in December, and I'm sure we would be happy to let you know when that is. It's in Wellington, because Wellington hold the pen, Wellington City Council hold the pen to that. But as His Worship has said, there is a waste recycling centre that is under consenting at the moment at Manor Park, which will be very much similar to what we're talking about in Porirua and Wellington City. Right, so hopefully that's helpful.
Okay, any other
Yeah,
questions?
I'd like to be involved anywhere that I'm joining with this conversation. Obviously, you can tell from my accent, I'm from the UK.
Yeah.
And we were much further ahead
Yeah.
with this, and I can see that we've got an opportunity to create something brilliant. You know?
Thank you.
2026, it is an mandate, it's really making at the moment. This government hasn't provided that there is a lot that council need to look at recycling, curbside recycling.
Yeah.
Happy to share that.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you, Anne. Teresa Homan, next. Welcome.
I'm going to read that one. I just want to say I've learned a couple of things here today, so thank you. Anyway, I want to speak on the next step for the regional collaboration on water services delivery plan. In regard to the creation of a new improved water entity and the central government's professed commitment to water done well, this council needs to consult with its local community. Previous councils here and across Wellington region have failed to manage the community's three waters needs. The promise to do this by the creation of the water entity Wellington Water has proven a false promise. The problem hasn't been lack of money, but lack of resource. The resource is not enough boots on the ground to do the work of maintaining and replacing pipes. This and refusal to listen to the need for water tanks and grey water recycling and the call to reduce the amount of water to be taken from the river has put our water delivery at risk. Water isn't a finite resource. It keeps falling out of the sky. In Wellington region, in fact, with climate change, we might be in for more than we bargained for. Scarcity in summer hasn't increased. Last summer's scare tactics were simply that, scare tactics. But the community responded appropriately and conserved water as they always have, especially when more were reliant on tank water. We are now embarking on another bigger, improved water entity. This will simply compound the problem, as has been proven by Wellington Water's failure to deliver. Bigger is not necessarily better or improved water management. We don't need bigger management structures, boards, CEOs. We need people who know about leaky pipes, ready and resourced to fix them. The Upper Hutt City Council needs to give voice not only to people's concern, but their constructive ideas for delivery of three waters. The alternative is another costly mistake that those shut out of conversations will continue to pick up the bill for. There is a hole in the bucket where not only water has been leaking, but where good money has gone after bad. Let's not keep repeating the mistake and listen to the wisdom of those who care and who want to help fix the problem for now and for the future of the local management of our three waters. Collectively, we can come up with new, innovative ways to achieve this by using wisely what is finite, our resources, money and time, to deliver three waters done well. And I just want to say that I think if you consult after, then all you offer the community is what has already been decided, rather than consulting before and hearing new ideas. And I think there may be people out there with some good new ideas. And I certainly, I will do everything I can here and across the region to oppose water meters, because I don't think they're the answer to the problem.
Okay, any questions for Teresa? No questions? Thank you. Karen. What we'll do is, I'll move that if the council, if the remove the original report, so we move to item 5, which is the next step on the regional collaboration on water services. And again, just remind councillors that the decision, yeah, we'll carry on. Is to remember that the in principle, the inform the work completed to date and to work that will bring forward any further options and bring forward any further decisions to be made later at a later date. So we're only carrying on working collaboratively together in the region. That's the decision we're making here. Any discussion? Deputy Mayor Swales?
Your Worship, I have a couple of questions, and one of the burning questions for me is the cost for us to continue around the table, and it's on page 91. And in there, it says that we haven't budgeted it, but there is a cost of us continuing to stay at the table. Is there any indication as to what that cost might be, is my first question, because I think it's really important that we have an understanding, because later in today's agenda, we're going to have to factor in some other costs that are probably not in our LTP, and it has been alluded in this that it's not in our LTP. I'd like that answered first before I get on to my other questions.
See,
through you, Worship, we can't be specific about the cost until we know how many councils are continuing to be involved in the process, because those costs will be then divvied up amongst the number of participant councils. The estimated all-up cost, there are 2 phases anticipated. They're called phase 2 and 3. We've been through phase 1. Phase 2 is currently estimated at costing a maximum of about $4 million. We would have a share of that cost, but what that share is, we can't be specific until we know how many councils are still in the process. Phase 3 is yet to be costed, but that is likely to be significant more than phase 2.
Just to continue on from that, and it brings into account what some of our colleagues have said when they've come and spoken to us in the public arena around public consultation. So when I read because I was looking for it, the alternative requirement on consultation, there is a bit of a caveat there that I didn't quite understand, which meant that we consulted on the first lot, which is probably the options, but then we weren't going to get what the financials were until after we'd done that consultation. It also talked about the fact that we may not have to actually go back out and speak to our community because of the adjustment in the LTP, which brings me back to that paragraph that some of them in the community have, which is on page 89, 86, satisfied that the community has a good understanding of the implication of the proposal. So if we're going back to what's in the LTP, and I've looked at the LTP and how much money we've got in there over the 10 years that we're going to spend on potable water, stormwater and wastewater, and yet we've got to make that decision what we're going to do with stormwater. You know, I just want to know, are we going, for me, we need to consult with a full picture with the community, not just half of it, and yet it alludes that that's not what could possibly happen if we go with this alternative. And it just bothers me that it appears that it's going to override the significant and engagement policy.
No.
Well, that's the wording, and this is what I think a few people are getting when they're reading this, is that it's in principle and a little bit ambiguous as to the interpretation. And I'm pretty good at reading all of these pieces of legislation and things like that. So I do have a concern about making sure that we do consult properly. And I know that all we're doing is in principle that we're going to stay at the table, but that still comes at a cost that I think I would like to know what it is, because it's not budgeted for in the LTP. And then I have another concern where it says on paragraph 33, page 84, where it says that DIA has advised that council could seek to prepare a single council entity, CCO, WSPD, initially to understand financial sustainability and regulation compliance positions. Council officers have commenced this work and submitted the initial work. Will we get to see that as elected people? What that submitted work is?
We get to see, we get to see it when it's put into a more piece of work. I'm quite open that what we submitted was the LTP. The figures we had in the LTP have been submitted to DIA, and DIA fed those back to us because they've done that work actually. And then we added in the optimal that Wellington Water brought to us in October last year. That is all that has been submitted to DIA. Does that make sense?
Thank you. It would have been nice to have actually known that that's what it was, because it was a little bit ambiguous and a little bit concerning that we had agreed to something that we didn't actually know about. So thank you for the clarification on that. I think I'll leave it at that, because for me, it's about the money and about the recommendations under 2329. I do have some concerns about some of those, but I'd like to address those when we go through them one by one.
Okay, any further questions or comments? Councillor Bentley and then Councillor Newell.
It's the bottom with our share of the costs for phase two. We can hazard a guess that it's left to the metro councils would be up for around 10% of that phase two cost based on population.
Through you, Worship, it's unclear as to whether the next meeting of the advisory group is on the 13th of December. That will clarify how many councils are still in the tent, and it will also hopefully provide clarity on how the funding is going to be divvied up. If the funding was done on a population basis, yes, our share of that cost would be around about 10% or 10-11% in that order. But if it was just done on the number of councils involved, then our share would probably be in the order of $500,000.
Councillor Newell.
Your Worship, I am absolutely astonished that people who have come before us today and made their submissions have now left the room when we are in the process of trying to come to grips, answer questions and debate this very important topic. And secondly, I think that we need to impress upon the public that part of their issues need to be addressed to the government, because it's the government that is setting the legislation here. And we, unfortunately, are the ones who are trying to communicate what it's all about to the public. And I think that is unfortunate for us, because it is so complicated that clearly very concerned members of our community are here talking about things that are not within our power to deal with. Thank you, Your Worship.
And just to talk about, if you're talking about the cost, just to highlight that when you're talking about who's in the tent and who's staying, remember the others who may not stay aren't going out on their own. They're also looking at other options with other groups of council. So if you look at the Whare, they're looking at one with Southern Hawke's Bay and Central Hawke's Bay. If you look at Kapiti and Horowhenua, they're actually looking at other options about the two there, plus part of the Manawatu. So it's not as if any of them are looking to go on their own. They're looking at that collaboration and that grouping. That's important to read. So any other questions or any other comments?
So I keep talking about the who's in the team, who's out of the team. When would our next option be of getting out of the team, other staying in the team?
Well, it comes back once it starts formulating, so that'll probably be in the new year. It'll be in the new year. That'll be when we'll have to make. Yep.
through you. This is in principle, we've done a lot of work, but there's a lot we don't know.
Yeah.
And we're basically asking permission to go away and do work on the options. To answer the question, we are aiming to try and be back mid-early December.
Okay.
But can you please make us?
Can I just,
Deputy Minister.
thank you, and, I look forward to you coming back with that information for us. And all the way through there, it talks about affordability and it talks about covering costs, but it doesn't talk about affordability for the community. It talks about affordability for making sure that we reinvest in the condition of our pipes and things like that. So for me, what was missing was affordability for our community, because I kept looking under the finances and it talks about affordability, sustainability and things like that. And the only time that it comes in about possibly what the community can afford is when the Commerce Commission comes in. But it doesn't actually give us a gauge of what affordable is. And that is my concern in the landscape that we've got in the current landscape with rising costs with regard to insurances, rates and things like that we've heard from the community, that when you come back, you'll at least give us a bit of a lens of what that impact is.
You only have to look at the original approach, the paper, and it shows that it's not actually
affordable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's the basis of.
I think it's, one thing, there's a fact sheet on the DIO website, which is quite useful regarding this, August 2024, local work done well, fact sheet, economic regulation and consumer protection. Affordability is really being defined as affordable to have safe drinking water. So I would put that context on the table, just for information, but then reference on the DIO website. I'm happy to.
Yeah, thank you. No further comments. So we do have here before you, we do have recommendation. Oh, sorry, Councillor Benny.
Thank you, Rich. I'd actually like to move recommendation number 10 of my revenue was doing well. And I can read that out in a room. That would be agrees to make this information available to the community in an accessible way, including but not limited to public records.
Section, Yep. Do we have a mover? Yep, have a seconder? Yeah. We'll take it separately. All those in favour say aye. Aye. The contrary, no. Okay, then we go back to the item 5 where we have the 9 recommendations.
Sorry.
Councillor Newell.
Thank you.
We have recommendations 1 through 9.
Your Worship, I'd like to kind of talk, I'm happy to have 1 through to 5, absolutely, but I'd like to have a conversation around 6 and 7 and maybe.
No, not 4.
And when you stand up, it's like 4. So maybe if we take them into.
Well, we can take the first 5.
No, individually based, worship, and I've got a problem with 4. No, let's just do one.
Okay. We then move to item 1, to 1. Recommendation, notes the report. Next steps. We have a mover, Councillor Carson, seconder, Councillor Holderness. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
And carried. We need item 2. Section 2, notes the report is high level intended to guide thinking, directional decision making. Moved by Councillor Griffiths, seconded by Councillor Holderness. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, no. It's been carried. We go down to part 3. Moved by Councillor Holderness, seconded by Councillor Bentley. All those in favour say aye. Contrary, no. It's been carried. Item 4.
Yes, talk to my worship. My problem is with the expression approved in principle decision. So in principle means there's an option noting that the details for this option are yet to be established. We know
the whole paper has said that the details are yet to be established. So while you're being asked to use the words in principle, I don't see there's any need to have the words in principle, because this is just part of the journey towards making a decision or not. So my suggestion for recommendation 4 is agrees to continue working towards a joint arrangement delivery model for water services together with other councils, and drop the Wellington region part, because I know that the Wellington region includes Kakadu and Whirinaki, but we're also working as part of the joint agreement under the advisory group, Whare. And so we should be working on a water services action plan with other councils. We don't need to specify it needs to be Wellington region, because if you use the Wellington region, we're excluding Whare.
Well, they see themselves.
Because we need the Whare rules. So it's all confusing. So why don't we just say agrees to continue continue working towards a joint arrangement delivery model for water services together with other councils, and I know that.
Councillor Millie.
I'd like to have an explanation of why I'm towards there.
As I explained before, in principle, it's merely a legal term, and it's about keeping your options open. I don't think that in this context, we had this paper legally reviewed externally. I don't think taking the word in principle out of that makes a difference. But,
Okay, so do we have a mover for councillor Carson's amendments? I mean a seconder? No seconder? Okay, so we will put that to the vote, the item 4, as it's worded. Happy to move it, seconded by councillor Newell. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, no, it's been carried. Now to part 5. Happy to move. Seconded by councillor Hammond. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Contrary, no, it's been carried. We go now to item 6.
So when I went to the local government water, whatever, and I looked under alternative requirements, the part that concerned me under it is number 6, a territorial authority that first adopting its 2024-34 long-term plan under 4 whatever, to satisfy the requirement of the consultation on the decision under the, basically it says that the consultation, it almost negates the significance policy that we've got, and that concerns me, because I believe that whatever we land on with regard to this, whether it's phase 2 or phase 3, we know that $500,000 is a percentage increase in our rates. So I think that that's significant enough, and that the further is that if we do the alternative requirement for consultation and decision-making on the proposal delivery plan, doesn't allow us to be more open and transparent with our community. So why, I want to know why we're doing the alternative instead of the normal consultation that we would normally do. I want to know why.
Notes.
Yeah, but it still notes that it.
Doesn't say we're doing it.
No.
No, not at all.
But why should it even be there? I think we should just do consultation.
My understanding is here because it's part of the legislation.
Yeah,
Hang on.
the simplified process gives the council the option to do a much easier process than a full consultation. But it gives the option. It doesn't include going to a full consultation under the Local Government Act, but you can go down the path of doing a much simpler.
And that will be a process that would come back to us to make a decision as we get down the track, depending on.
Keeping our options open. And I would urge, as my colleague has just reminded me, paragraph 86, we have highlighted that for a reason. It is something that you might not be aware of, and that is the need that the community has a good understanding of the implications of any proposal.
and that the members are satisfied that they understand the community's views on. So that would have to be considered in any alternative conversation.
Can I just say, and I'm really pleased that you brought that up, because we as elected people around the table are going to say that we understand that the community fully understand when they've already come to us now and said they don't, and they want more consultation and more accessibility to material, which is number 10, which I totally support. And that is just that my concern is that notes that this is a simplistic way for us to do it, that it's not saying that that's the only way. It's like in principle.
Councillor Carson.
I would actually query why we have those two recommendations, 6 and 7 anyway, because the very first one says note the contents of the report. So why pick these two out and not others as well? Because all you're doing is scaring the community about, oh, they're not going to fully consult with the community. And even though it says notes, when you say notes, it brings an awareness in fact that, oh, well, we can use this tool. We don't have to adequately or fully consult with the community. So I think two should be taken out completely because it's already covered within the report.
Councillor Bentley.
I think officers were damned if they do, damned if they don't with this one, because if they didn't make it explicit, then we'd be saying, why is this not being brought to the table and made a bit more attention on? I'll stop speaking.
Thank you, Councillor. I was through your worship. I was just about to stand and say it's a new tool. We will bring it to council.
And again, highlighting that any decision will be made at a later date for us. Yep. Councillor Ultra.
I have a question about recommendation 8. Can I ask that?
No, we're still on. We're still on 6. Okay, no further. Move to point 6. Happy to move. We have a seconder. Councillor Griffiths. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, no.
No. Recorded.
Been carried. We now go to item 7. Councillor Ultra, did you have a question on council? Point 7? Oh, sorry. Yeah, so point 7, happy to move. Moved by Councillor Griffiths. All those in favour say aye. Contrary, no. It's been carried.
Against.
2 here and against. Now we move to Councillor Ultra, point 8.
So in point 8, it talks about escalating the lack of agreement with the Joint Water Services Plan. So as we go through this process, I'm understanding point 8 as meaning that we still reserve the right to disagree if we get through this process and find that there's something we need to oppose or. But at what point are we able to exit from anything? Because I feel like we're being herded into a system that we find it really hard to back out of. So when it says escalate a lack of agreement, what ability do we really have to do that?
This is like a force majeure type option. If the minister was to intervene, this is the option that we would be taking down, for example. But if the region failed, if, for example, this council was to join the regional approach and it failed, and the minister intervened, then this would be it. That makes sense. Yeah.
Okay. Point 8, happy to move. We have a seconder. Councillor Griffiths, all those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, no. It's been carried. And to point 9. Councillor Carson.
I just query the word approves and it should not be notes instead of approves.
We can change it to notes.
Yeah.
Okay. Happy to move. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Bentley, all those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, no. It's been carried. Okay.
Number 10.
10. Well, okay. Moved by Councillor Bentley, seconded by Councillor Newell. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, no. It's been carried. Okay, we now move to, thank you. We now move to item 4, back to Whirinaki Taonga annual report. Welcome. Sorry about the delay.
Hi everybody, and thank you for the opportunity for Whirinaki Taonga to present our annual report. Some slides that are going to up there. This is an opportunity for us to talk about the year that has been. One of the Zoe, who's here for Steve, and to answer any questions that might have. So for us, 23-24 has been an incredible year, actually the biggest year that in terms of visitation. So for us, this is why we're here, to build social cohesion and improve civic and well-being for engaging and inspiring, connecting people with art, culture, and art community. First part of our objective. This is you see this in the this is what I mean when I said one of our biggest years. So this is an infographic that we've designed that talks a little bit about why it's been so big. 180. Through the visitor to the centre, 20,000 visitors to our largest exhibition ever, which was Hall of Heroes. Who came? Who came for us? Right. 308 artworks, 36 artists represented throughout the year, over 4,000 school children through 9,698 dancers on the stage, 9,000 tickets sold, 23 different sponsors, 46% of our total income generated by that. So why was it a big year? To provide arts, culture and event opportunities and learning for the people of our hearts and beyond. Big part of that was these two films, was Hall of Heroes. And I say it was big, it wasn't just a number of people, but it came with full containers on the stage. Anywhere else in New Zealand or anywhere on the way. But also this one here, which was Home, which is a story that we presented from perhaps 10 different families who have travelled from different countries to make their home in Upper Hutt. For me, this was a real highlight. We've received outstanding feedback from this exhibition. It was such a privilege to be able to record and present their stories, seeing new types of communities coming into the centre. And it very much sits along the arts, culture and heritage. Alongside of that, the other exhibitions are also our local artists that we support, our Taonga Māori artists that we support, and selling the artwork from a variety of different genres. But we also do our performing arts, right? And I can't mention them, it's too many, but there's a snapshot that you see there, continuing with our classical expressions program, which was six concerts across a range of different genres. Our late night Friday nights, which was also by Koha entry as well as Sunday Strum, and the Upper Hutt Music Festival, which this year featured John Toogood, which was again brought up a whole new different audience into the building. 102 performing arts shows throughout the year. Most of them, or many of them are dance, but it also goes right across the board from hip hop to ballet to film to classical to jazz, you name it. Second objective for us is to be an integral part of the Hutt community, attracting diverse audiences. We do that in a number of ways. We can see it through our school students. Like I said, 4,000 students across being taught in our creative classroom. We've 10 public programs, Little Whirinaki, Friends of Whirinaki, and just a few of those. We also did that with the new Community Arts and Cultural Advisor. We created the first annual Arts Trail, and wasn't it wonderful a couple of weekends ago to see that that is still running by our very dedicated members of the public. That had 3,500 visitors across 20 spaces throughout Upper Hutt, but also the Community Arts and Advisor also organised the Art and Culture website, the Arts Directory, Art Meets Up, and cultural newsletters to support our local community. In addition, to bring life, art, culture, heritage and recreation and promote the utilisation of the centre, making sure that it's filled to the brim with people. In fact, 180,000 of them and 88% of them were happy. How can we tell they're happy? That's through the community survey, but also this here. This is something new that we've started doing, is actually collecting the statements, unsolicited statements of people that come to our exhibitions and events and what they say. And they write it down either online or in our visitor book. Most of them are in the annual report, and I really encourage you to read them because this is why we get out of the statements. That one I love the most. This was just the most magical, inspiring exhibition I have ever seen. Great soul food in a difficult world, and that was a visitor to the home exhibition. We've hosted some amazing events in the theatre and hall, and they vary. Boy, do they vary. That is a ballroom dancing competition. This is the Antiques and Collectible Roadshow. Many of them national. When this visited, there were so many camper vans out in the back car park. They came from Invercargill right down to right up to Whare. We also have looked after the eyesight for its last year. And we also look after the Pumpkin Cottage collection. We have some quiet years and when it comes to gifts, but this last year from 23 to 24, we gifted, you guys, we gifted 5 gifts to the collection throughout the year, which is lovely to just to see that that gift is growing. We celebrated and showcased our local upcut stories across all cultures. One of the ways we did that last year, I don't know if we'll get to do it again, was the Matiki Festival that we headlined together with a number of other departments and council through the Community Arts and Cultural Advisor. It was a beautiful event, and we received so many lovely comments on that. And again, another way that we did that was through the home. So that was just a very quick outline from you of some of the highlights. Just thank you so much for your support and the feedback that we get from our community. Is outstanding. So thank you very much.
Any questions for that, Councillor Newell?
Yeah, thank you. That was a great presentation. The annual report, as usual, was excellent. But you do allude to the environment at the moment, and I'm wondering what you're seeing in terms of sponsorships, corporate support, and whether there's
I could get blood out of a rag usually, but it's becoming harder and harder. I've had more decline in the last 6 to 12 months than I have in the last 6 to 12 years.
Okay, any other questions? Councillor.
I'd just like to say congratulations to you and the team and the board for doing an amazing job in a trying time. And when I look at all of the KPIs that we've asked you to meet, and I look at the very few that were not achieved, I think, as Councillor Newell has said, money is really tight out here, and you just, a whole lot of you need to be complimented on what you deliver. I did read some of the comments that were there, and it's just heartwarming to know that people outside of our community probably appreciate more what we have than our own community do, because there are still people out there that still don't know you're out of control. So thank you, and that's all I wanted to say.
Thanks. Thank you. Thanks, Leanne, and thanks to the trustees and Zoe. Thank you. Councillor Ridley.
In the, as I echo the comments, congratulations on that. Yeah. What do you get donations from people who come along? Do you only take cash, or do you have a way for your payload? Because obviously there's people carrying cash.
We can just take anything we can get.
You have those little payload things around the place that people can cash vehicles. Yeah.
I've seen people leaving with no shirts on here. Okay, no further questions. Then we have recommend that council receives and notes the report titled Whirinaki Whare Taonga Half Year Report 1st of July 23 to 30th of June 24. Moved by Councillor Newell, seconded by Councillor Griffiths. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
No, it's been carried. Thank you very much. We now go back to the late item, Plan Change 1, which we agreed to accept, and that's.
Sorry, it was our 21st birthday, and some of you been able to come, so our volunteers put together some lovely generic cookies for you. So leave here for you to take.
Oh, very good too.
I was going to say, yeah, I know.
Okay, so we have here accepting that we have the recommendations of staff. You got anything you want to add? Okay.
Just to wish we would see that we've welcomed Gabby and Susan at the table and Emily at the back as well. So this late agenda item is around plan change one to the regional policy statement for the Wellington region and potential appeals. The reason that it has been late coming to yourselves is because we did seek external legal advice on the merits of appealing, hence it's been late, and also that it is time sensitive with the appeals period closing on the 18th of November. Just in terms of the paper, there is a good summary of the provisions being appealed. They're discussed in paragraphs 22 to 28. We've got Gabby and Suze here at the table who will helpfully answer any specific technical questions that you might have. In terms of officer's recommendation, we are recommending option 2, which is to file an appeal. That allows us to be 274 parties to appeals. Just to note, the initial filing cost would be $660. That would involve additional costs around $10,000 to $12,500 as per paragraph 36. And should be noted that even if we do appeal, any issues may be able to be addressed at mediation stays, and council can decide to withdraw an appeal at any time, as well as per paragraph 37. I might leave it there and then.
You don't want to talk about the 1800K?
1800, oh, sorry.
No, 80 to 100K.
Oh.
Paragraph 51, yeah.
Yeah, but-
Just missed that. Was that intentional?
Well, no, I mean, yeah, I mean, it is as stated, I mean, what further, I mean.
Yeah,
Yeah. That is through your worship, that is allowed some.
There's also a cost of not appealing too to the community. Yeah. Thank you. Right, Councillor Bentley.
Yeah, thank you, Richard. First question is the legal advice available yet and can it be circulated? And second question was, what are the other TA's stances on? Because I couldn't see any points.
So, through your worship, in terms of the first question, yes, the legal advice is available and we're going to circulate that for elected members. Sorry, I missed the second one.
Where are the other TA's on this?
Oh, well, that's it. Okay.
Yep.
The worship, my understanding from a recent planning managers meeting is that most, if not all, of the other Wellington regional TAs will be affected at the also.
So,
Deputy Mayor Swales. Oh, sorry, yeah, no.
If they are all appealing, it says about 274.
Yeah.
Section 274 parties can appeal to others. Not a lawyer. So could we just have a joint thing and then say legal costs?
Through your worship, that would be something that we could look at. There may be circumstances where some of the submission points that we put in are slightly different to some of the other charitable authorities, and I know that that's been the case throughout the process. So we would only be wanting to look to be a 274 party where the appeal from those charitable authorities are consistent with the submission.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Swales.
Was the costs when I added them up eye-watering, and we haven't got them in the budget of our LTP. I certainly see the value in us challenging this plan change one that regional council have got for the very reason how you've broken out the issues that while some of them are a collective issue that we have, and that's probably mainly around cost, the burden of cost with all the other TAs. But there are some specific separate ones here that do actually pertain to us. And I did read the consequence that if we don't do this, then the court that we go to is probably not going to actually hear in our favour. It will be a lot harder than going through the environmental court. So I'm happy to support this, but Kate, I don't know how you're going to feel about finding the money for us.
Okay, Councillor Ultra, did you have a question?
Yes, under urban development provisions,
is quickly at the top of page 5. And it's talking about employment locations beyond the ability of Greater Wellington Regional Council to direct. Could you give me an example of what that actually means? Like, it doesn't really tell me much about what kind of thing this would be an example
Your worship, for example, one of those provisions is Greater Wellington is directing us to protect key industrial employment areas. However, we actually don't have mechanism under the district plan to be able to do those functions. Other than zoning, we don't have the ability to protect those. We don't have mechanisms under the RMA to be able to undertake that function. And so Greater Wellington is directing us to do something that we fundamentally have no ability to do.
No further questions.
Does the fast track bill override parts of that? With regards to some of the issues that are raised here, because I know that Greater Wellington Regional Council is going to be quite restrictive and they don't want to go near green fields and so how does that work, that dynamic?
Your worship, yes, potentially, but we're not 100% sure how that's going to work because the fast track legislation is so new.
Yeah.
And action not even enacted yet. The devil is always in the detail with these pieces of legislation, and it may or it may not, but if it does, it may only do sort of one project that is identified, or it may do it for other things. So there's benefit in belt and braces approach, I suppose, of trying to moderate those provisions for all, while the fast track might only refund some.
Thank you.
Okay, no further comments. Councillor Neil.
Your worship, with this government and the changes that are coming thick and fast that we are obliged to deal with, I'm struggling to sort of see what are the priorities because of our resourcing. We know that resourcing is an issue, and that's something in here. You know, we've got the 80 to 100,000 plus staff costs plus the resourcing, and just some kind of risk management or something is needed that gives us as councillors an idea of what the priorities might be coming down the turnpike, because otherwise, we're going to keep having these big requests, knowing that there's no budget for it.
Through your worship, look, I 100% agree with you, and I know Millions team does as well. So we're doing our level best now as a new group to stand up and start looking at that full program. But I would note that some of this stuff that's coming at us, we have no idea. So we do need to be reactive and reserve the capacity for that reactive side. But we remind council that we are a very lean machine, and so there will be consequences in terms of prioritisation.
Councillor Bentley.
Just to respond to Councillor Newell as well. The reason that we're challenging this is because the regional council are ignoring the thick and fast stuff coming from government and going their own course. So we're going to have to change our plans to suit them. And when this government puts the new plan in that they said they're going to do, we have to change again and do another plan change. So we're going to have to spend money. This is spending money to save money in a way, hopefully.
Okay, we have Councillor Carson.
I just have a clarification. Didn't I read last week that the coalition government had prevented councils implementing these changes to various policies like fresh water and all that? Doesn't look like the rest.
There is, and part of this was discussed at the recent first national natural resources plan hearing, which occurred Monday. And the regional council have been very clear in those initial proceedings that they, based on their advice, have every legal right to continue undertaking their functions and continuing with their plans. So that is a key reason why we seek approval to do this appeal, because they are under the impression or they're following through an approach there under the understanding that they have a legal right to continue. Not only for the RPS, but it also follows into that natural resources plan, which has further implications down the line.
Now, we have last, and then we'll move on.
Just one thing. So we've had the risk and assurance profile of this. So I'm hoping that the finance committee, when it comes here, that we've got an overview of the implications of going through with this, because we need to know where we're going to find the money if it's not budgeted for. So I would like it to be on the agenda of the Finance and Performance Committee. Don't need it to go to risk and assurance. I've read that and quite happy with that, but we need to know where we financially stand. Thank you.
They have recommendations there, A through D. We have recommendations. Do we have a mover? Happy to move. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Ultra, all those in favour say aye. Aye. Contrary, no. It's been carried.
Could we put that as another amendment that we would like to find?
We'll make a note of it.
Yeah, okay.
Now we move to the confirmation of the council meetings, first of which was held on the 25th of September.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, staff. Any items to be discussed?
Yes.
Item.
Here's my brother turned up to the meeting instead of me. Here's Councillor CJB instead of Councillor BG.
Well, we'll make that change. Yeah. Your brother contributed a lot. Yeah. Happy to move. No items to be discussed. We're happy to move. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Hammond, all those in favour say aye. Contrary, no. It's been carried within use to the council meeting, which was held on the 30th of October. Any items to be discussed? Happy to move. Seconder. Councillor Hammond, all those in favour say aye. Contrary, no. It's been carried. We now move to the city services, which was held on the 2nd of October. Any items to be discussed? Councillor Ultra? Yeah.
As the City Services Committee confirmed that the record of the meeting held on 2nd of October 2024 is a true and correct record of the meeting.
We have a seconder. Councillor Bentley, all those in favour say aye. Contrary, no. It's been carried. We now adopt the recommendations of that meeting. I'm happy to move it. Seconded by Councillor Ultra. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Contrary, no. It's been carried. We now move to the Policy Committee, which was held on the 16th of October. Councillor Newell.
Thank you, Your Worship. I ask the Policy Committee to confirm the record of the meeting on 16th of October is a true and correct record of the meeting.
Moved by Councillor Newell. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Griffiths. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Contrary, no. It's been carried. We now adopt the recommendations of that meeting. I'm happy to move, seconded by Councillor Newell. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Contrary, no. It's been carried. We now move to the Hutt Valley Services Committee, which was held on the 20th of September. Councillor Griffiths.
Happy to put forward the minutes of the meeting of Friday, the 20th of September.
Seconded by Councillor Swales. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, no. It's been carried. We now move to public excluded.
Your Worship, before we do, and I know that we actually approved the minutes of the meeting held the 30th, which is on page 30, 350. But part of those minutes are the draft unaudited accounts of Wellington Water. And I recall at that meeting, I asked how we were going to discuss it and it was flipped away, and yet it's part of those minutes. So I don't think they should be. The audit, the Wellington Water unaudited accounts, and the meeting, I asked, are we going to discuss it? And we got told no. So I don't see why they should be part of the minutes of that meeting. So I'm sorry, I challenge it.
They were tabled at the meeting.
Yeah, we wanted to discuss it and we were told we weren't, because I wanted to discuss it and I got told I wasn't allowed to. Because I was going to say, why is it not unaudited? accounts here when it should be an audited paper because we couldn't even see the audited, letter from the auditors as to what they had to say.
Well, that letter will come, but that's still part of the meeting. They will table to that meeting.
So
There's
we
no
will
point.
get audited papers in, Wellington's audited papers at some time in the future.
Wellington were, in an issue of getting this audit signed off. Yep. It's, and it's still not done.
Yep.
The issue that is holding it up has got nothing to do with shareholding accountants. It needs to be Wellington Water itself. I've had that do it from our own auditor. So they will come and do reports, but they were attached as draft because that's what we have. And that's
Because they were part of that meeting, but they will come.
So they will
Yeah.
come.
Okay, we move to public excluded. Happy to move. Seconded by councillor Newell. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, no. It's been carried. We now move to. Oh, yeah.
Will you give us an assurance?
Where?
they're not